Point it out.
Okay.
So I call this meeting to order. So Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Eric,
Here.
Ms. Beals,
Aye.
Ms. Dodrell,
Here.
Ms. Rice,
Here.
Ms. Schwab.
Here. Okay. Approval of agenda. We'd like to amend the agenda and add a report on the board retreat. And we are going to do that right after the public participation. So,
Make a motion to,
yes. Or is there anybody else want to add or delete? Okay. Can I have a motion then?
I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda and add the report on the board retreat to follow the public participation.
Okay. I have a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, sorry, roll call.
Mr.
I
Eric,
forget that.
Aye.
Ms. Beals,
Aye.
Ms. Dodrell,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Ms. Schwab.
Aye. Thank you. So first, public participation.
We don't have anyone.
This is good. Okay, so we had our board retreat. I told my husband that I was going to give a PowerPoint presentation. So I've got the pointer, and I'm going to point to some powerful learning that happened for us. So first off, we had the St. Nicholas, and it was quickly apparent that this was a appropriate place. Obviously a sacred place, because Gary Lou was born there, Connie was born there, and my husband was born there. So we were in a birthing process, and we had high expectations. And I believe we did give birth to some, direction, okay? So the first thing, we had quite a discussion, and it was about we and me. So do we have that? So if you look kind of over here, if you look and see the we and the me, if you turn them so that they're a reflection, then the two of them are united. And I think it was very important for us to identify our me issues. And I believe there was great honesty and great courage. And I don't think that we really can be a team or the we unless we embrace our identities and how we merge together to be a team. So that was our first accomplishment, I believe. What I believe we all agreed with is that we have hope and that we have our hands on the hope. And we decided that our hands belong to change agents, that we are going to be change agents. And then we worked on our core values after we discussed this, and we came up with some core values. But obviously, what we're trying to do is more than just the board. It is a process that includes the staff of the school as well as the community. And I think we're again, being encouraged by this Randy Black to broaden our scope in terms of understanding our, and I have to pull this down here on the thing. What we're looking at is our focus areas, our essential board roles, and the board purpose. And I believe the last time that this was really scrutinized was probably 10 years ago.
I think Bill had the idea of when it was.
We had actually we had created a district mission the last time that I was on the board, and Randy Black facilitated the same type of program for us. The board's purpose also came out of those discussions at that time. But the essential board roles and the board's focus areas are something that should be fluid and should happen on a year-to-year basis. And I'm not real sure, Tana's been on there before, so I'm not sure how much that came about through their discussions. But I think some of those have changed over the years as they found an area that needed to be addressed or a situation that needed to be addressed.
And when were you on the board? How many years ago?
2006 to 2010. So we're looking at, we've been doing this for 14 years at least.
So what we did is Connie passed you out a paper that has the we and the me. And what we wanted you to do is to write 5 of your core values that, again, you believe is inherent in the teaching of our children. And that kind of goes back to our hope. I wanted to say a little bit more about that. It's not just about the hands on the change agent. That again, we are united in purpose, and we are like mind and like purpose, that we believe that we are here as a team to serve children. Well, that's why we put the children in the middle of the O. And then this is on tar paper, which is roofing. And I believe that hope at this time is our shelter, that it is going to protect us from the elements of the rain and the snow and the harsh sun, and you couldn't have a better protective factor than having that vision of being hopeful. So then the values. So do we want to show you what after all of our discussions amongst ourselves, we came up with some values, and this is not, like I said, it's a work in progress. It's not a what we think is a final draft. It is a part of a draft. Yeah.
Sure.
They're
Tall
but they're
faces.
just not
They're not
tall
tall
enough.
enough yet.
Yeah. So this is what we came up with. And I think we narrowed it down to inclusiveness, learning, listening, commitment, change agent. And then from there, we talked about particular focuses. And obviously, he told us to take a look at this as a jar and to think about how many things that you could put in a jar, and you can't take all of them. So to start with, this is what we felt needed to be our focus. And again, it's just a beginning. It's not, again, the final piece, because we need more input. So policy, consistency, classroom to boardroom, strategic planning, parent partnerships, student achievement, engagement, learning, culture, safe learning environment, community engagement, trust, public support, enrollment, get back, attract, teacher retention. So, anybody else? We've invited him to come back and help us to continue this. But again, our thought is that we need to broaden the spectrum. That, again, the strategic planning in terms of visioning where the school is going in the next 5 years needs to have ownership across our whole community. This is our start.
And I felt really good was about the community and trust, because community is us and unity. So even as a school board, you know, I'm very green and learning, and so that's what we want to do, but we want to bring it together as unity and where we're all coming from. And I mean, for us to agree on what our core rocks are going to have to be was really good, and then the us in trust. And so we have to create a certain trust with us, the trust with staff, and we understand now too that Tori is our one employee. I mean, we're learning that, and that we give you guys, the ones, the teachers and stuff are out there. It's kind of like me as a department head. We have the expertise in that area. We're just the governing board, and we're just trying to do what's best, but it's us together as all as one team. And we know that we might not always agree, and we can agree to disagree, and that's okay. And we talk about core values of family. And sometimes your family, you don't always agree, but you're still family, and we still all want the same outcome. We all have the same care, compassion, goal to make this a great community, and that the kids are going to be successful in education in other areas, as well as the faculty. So we just want to bring our community back together, and I felt like that in our retreat. I felt good coming out. I just felt energized and excited that we have a lot of the same people with the same heart and the same drive and the same goal. So it might come out looking differently, but that's that's family too, and we think of this as family. So it's just extended family.
It's a start. Again, we're willing to do whatever we can to put energy to this. And again, we believe it's encompassing all of you, like Tana said, Tana, it's inclusiveness.
Yeah.
That, again, to pull us out into a broad spectrum. And obviously, I think all of us recognize that we're in a huge transition right now. And what do you do with transitions? Other than you just keep one foot in front of the other and moving forward. And we will achieve what we set out to do. So that's
Her
anything else?
presentation now. I can always use her stick though.
That's why I
Get some
put it back
point
here.
across.
Yeah, my PowerPoint. When I said that to Shorty, I said, I'm gonna do a PowerPoint. And he said, how are you gonna pull that off? Okay, so moving on then, superintendent's report.
It is in your packet, and, I don't really have anything else to add, just kind of a listing of the things I've been doing. We've been, again, a week or two ago, we did our business manager interviews, and they're recommending Tammy Brunts to the board after roughly around 40 applicants, and then roughly around 12 interviews, and kind of pared that down, and she's got some good qualifications. Today we did our first round of the interview process for a Crescent principal. We went all day long and had a hearty crew of 10 folks that pulled it off. Some of them are still here with their eyes looking a little glazed over, but they're still here. It's a good job, people. So we've that team recommended 4 that will be interviewed on Thursday. Tomorrow, weather depending, we're supposed to be doing secondary principal interviews. So we'll see about if we're going to need to rearrange that or not, depending on how the snow, it's supposed to stop at 10, somebody was telling me, right? So we'll see.
If not sooner.
It only supposed to be an inch.
I think there's already
I
two.
know Crystal did text me during this meeting, so she slid off the road on Teller 1, so she's not gonna make it. So with her and 3 other cars, she said, so, and then rumor is that Patty took longer to come in than normal. There you go, so we shall see. Usually what happens is Tanya Martin starts texting myself and Annie, because Tanya's over in Victor and she's in Cripple Creek and I'm not, so usually, and Tanya runs the buses, so I usually we lean heavy on Tanya's report about how the roads are, looking at the cameras, and if she feels the buses can make it or not, so we'll probably, after we get done here, start having that conversation in person this time, I guess.
I'm actually texting Grace O'Cama right now because she was asking that very question.
Okay, yeah, so we'll see, if we need to do a 2-hour delay or what, just so the roads can melt a little bit in the morning or something, but, anyways. So secondary principal, first round interviews will be tomorrow, depending on weather. And then final interviews will be on Thursday, in the morning it would be the 4 from the elementary, and whatever the secondary picks, they have 11 candidates they'll be interviewing, and then they can send up 3 to 4 to the final round as well. And we'll kind of go from there. And then tech director interviews are going to take place on Monday. It sounds like we still need to screen some of the resumes right now, so they're working on that over here in the HR land to get those set up for us, right? Yeah, so there's that. I went to the city council meeting. It was a good experience for me. I like presenting there. We're gonna do it on a quarterly basis. Just kind of telling everybody what's going on. I think that was a great idea. Mary had suggested that, and so then I also took the initiative to sign up for the Victor City Council one as well, and just contacted those folks. So we're gonna do the same thing in February with those guys, and just touch base. Again, this whole thing about we're trying to work on, which is community and outreach and telling everybody, so try to be as transparent as possible. So that's what we're trying to do. And it's fun to just chat with people and hear their side of the house, and just for me, it was nice to watch the city council meeting for a while and just see how they did things, and they got their own stuff they're working on, so it's kind of it was good for me, good eye-opening situation. I went to some leadership blueprint training, which is part of the Flip It group. It ties into this Capturing Kids' Hearts trainings that we're sending folks to. I know Mary is going with a group of people on the 30th, I believe, as well, right? So this is like the leadership version of it, so you're going to get the teacher version of it, Mary. So that was a good experience for me. And again, we sent some kids with our art teacher, Becky Evers, to Woodland Park Middle School. They had a speaker there that Mr. Wolf had invited us to send some students down there and listen to. A great guy from Nebraska, Skate for Change. He started out, he was in, I believe he was either high school or college, and started donating socks to the homeless. I guess he also just took some from the team one time and decided to donate those, and he had to tell the coach what he did, but so just things like that. So he's just a really good motivational speaker. Our kids and the Little Park kids really responded well to him, and Becky was saying that he'd have some interest in coming up here and talking to our whole group, not just the kids that we sent down there. So that would be kind of exciting to see. We'll just see what his cost would be. So that's kind of the main highlights here. Mr. Baca did turn in the UIP to the Unified Improvement Plan since it's priority improvement at the high school. You have to turn that in by January 15th. The rest of the UIPs for the middle school and elementary will be the normal turn-in rate, which is April 15th. So that will be continued to be brought up to the DAC and worked on with the DAC. And that's probably the highlights. So that's it for me.
Thank you.
We tried a new format too. Sorry, Bill. Mary had given us a format to use for, so I tried using it, and then my assistant principal's department chairs are trying to use your format that you would suggest we use, and I found it nice and succinct. So thank you.
Yeah, I like it as well.
Yeah. Bill, sorry, go ahead, man.
That's fine. I thought you were done. My bad.
No, I probably was, and then I just started rambling, so. Yeah.
Oh, well, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
So the Unified Improvement Plans,
Yes,
do we
sir.
get to see those at all?
Yeah, we can get you those. They're on they're on CDs, but we'll print some off and have copies for you, and I can, hopefully you get your email working, I'll send it to your personal one as well, but, we'll get.
And are these things that were approved previous to us coming on the board, did the board have to?
Approve the UIPs. Usually, in my tenure here, we haven't done that, so if that's, something that you guys did in the past.
No, I
let
just,
me know and
that's what I'd like to
change
know,
it.
because
Yeah.
we've been trying to research all this,
Yeah.
several of us have, and it's a muddled mess, that's why.
Well,
I
and they were changed, Bill, I don't know, yeah, if you were aware, but you probably are, but they're changing, who falls into what categories at the state
Right.
level. And so there was a big, shift, like they want the highest scores to be more elite. And so they kind of shifted some folks that were right on the fence that could be performance plans down to improvement plans, and then from improvement plans down to priority improvement. So we stayed about the same. Yeah, we stayed about the same. The high school one, it's the post-secondary, the graduation rate really messes up. How many kids are going to college, that's what brought them down, them being the high school scores. And so that's, something we got to work on as far as, they look at 4, 5, 6, and 7-year graduation rates. And so our best, I think, was the 7-year rate, but it means if, and you know this, if there's 17 kids starting out in freshman year, by, senior year, 13 of those kids are graduating, or 4 of them moved away, and we don't know where they went, that counts as against yeah, and so that takes the score to, and as you guys know, with that few of kids, that
Change our rate dramatically.
it could, but something we definitely need to work on. Our scores are definitely not where they need to be anyways, so we're, got some room to work on it. But I will get you copies of the UIPs, tomorrow, probably, since we'll be working on the snow thing tonight, but, and then I'll make sure we'll send it to your 2 email addresses, and hopefully it gets to one of them.
Okay, so I was just curious what the process was.
Interviews.
Well, evening then, how about that? I can get it to them in the evening. I'll get it to them tomorrow evening, sir.
You have a lot on your plate tomorrow, I know that.
Yeah.
And then, what was the cutoff for the tech director, or have we hit it yet?
No, I still have it wide open right now.
So we don't even know how many applicants would be.
Well, I know that Mr. Howell and Mrs. Hayden here were taking a look and kind of skimming through them. So, I mean, we haven't posted it on Indeed and on Aflatrack.
Okay.
How many would you say we have so far up to this point, the applicants wise?
Rough guess.
Maybe 10.
Maybe 10, okay.
Oh,
That's not too
that's
bad.
good.
So, yeah, so we'll see. Then you guys will work on setting that up for Monday, right? Go from there. And then Connie's gonna be on that interview team along with a lot of folks I got on there. So, all right, so.
So
Yeah.
I had a question, and I'm sure it's, I don't know. It had in here that the new district business manager, Tammy,
Tammy,
will
yeah.
start March 1st.
Yeah.
Is that a Sunday?
I don't know.
About 7. She's starting the beginning.
Okay, so
Okay,
okay.
because,
So yeah, she just gave me a date and I threw that out there, so, but it's a Sunday. So yeah, we're gonna make her come on Sunday, because you know what? Newbie, you gotta figure it out.
so
We'll
is
just,
it
we'll figure it out.
before, or it'll be 1st of March, or the payroll, or whatever that is?
It will be the 2nd of March.
Second,
which is
okay.
The first working day.
First working day.
I just try to sync all my calendars together, so
Yeah.
I know what's happening.
And then she needed that time to wrap up with Westminster and give them the right amount of time to get her replacement, I guess, up there.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Good question.
Well, can I ask, I really don't know all the the abbreviations or all the other stuff, like I need an index of MOY, NYEA, and DIVLs, and all
Yeah.
these.
We do that so much, man, yeah, in education. I try to filter it out when I can.
Well, the UIP was good in the district accountability, but, and I understand Colorado Department of Education, but there was the MOY, NWEA, testing is complete,
Oh, is that?
monthly,
Middle of the year.
huh?
Middle of the year.
Middle of the year, monthly,
We have.
Are you on the
MOI,
assistant
EOI
principal reports,
for
right?
testing.
okay.
Okay.
DIVLs is a type of test. that
I
we
just,
An
I just need all these, like, Kenny's index or dictionary.
Yeah, we should get one for you guys.
Yeah. page.
That'd be
Yeah.
something that would be interesting to know is how many days a year we spend on standardized tests.
It would be horrible to know.
Oh, we could get that for you, yeah. I won't get it for you tomorrow.
You have a rough idea, don't you?
Yeah. Okay, moving on, then, new business, the consent agenda. So the minutes from the December 18th, 2019. Are there,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
so, and Elaine, refresh my memory. So we go through A, B, and C, and then it's one motion?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions or anything on
No,
minutes?
I saw that too, and we had
Okay.
agreed to that that we were gonna try and do something like that, but
Okay,
On the minutes, last time it said that the redistricting continuation was a table, and it had Mr. Eckel bring a proposal to the board at the next board meeting for consideration. So we are going to
well, that,
have it this time later.
yeah, we're gonna do it later, but
Okay.
yeah, it was correct in the minutes.
Okay.
okay,
Right, it's correct in the minutes.
okay. So then resignations, recommendations, and terminations.
Recommendations, we're recommending Tammy Brooks as the business manager, HR director, at $80,000 annually. Resignations from Pete Howell, our IT director, Kelly McDonald, a first grade teacher, and Hannah Stair, who was our sped monitor.
Okay. And then the financial reports.
Before we go
Oh.
on to that, what are the qualifications that she has for the position, that Tammy Brents has for the position?
She
And
has a bachelor's degree and a CPA. She has 14 years school experience out in
Strasburg
Strasburg, and she has
and Westminster.
4 years or 5 years grant experience in Westminster.
grant experience?
Grant.
That's what we said, okay. Westminster, Colorado.
Yes,
Yeah, is it
Adams 12.
is
Used
it
to be-
is it
Adams
50?
20.
Is that Adam?
It used to be the Adams.
It's one of the Adams. I think it's Adams.
Oh,
I want to say it's
not
Adams
the-
50.
It's not the Westminster School District.
It's Westminster School District up in Denver area, and I think that's Adams, isn't it?
Yeah, but is that part of Adams 20?
I think,
Or is that's not Adams 5-star?
I thought it was Adams 50, but anyways, I will find that out while we're
All right.
talking here. Yeah.
But she
Now
also
I'm curious.
came in, very upbeat, full of, I want to say Pete's vinegar, but no, that's not what it is.
Pizzazz.
Pizzazz, there you go. And she just she was really excited about coming up here and,
She drove in that morning from Strasburg. so,
Yeah.
Well, and her situation was, she said during the interview, she was with Strasburg, but her son was from kindergarten to senior year. And then he went to college, so she needed something that paid better, so she could pay for him while in college, which is where she's been the last 4 years. And now she said she wants to get back to a small town, and she's always wanted to live in the mountains. So she saw this and said, I'll throw the dart and see if I get it. So I think that was, and
Well,
you,
it sounds like she has a really good experience.
and Gary Lou was on the interview team too, so.
yeah,
for that.
she just was very impressive. Just overall, I felt.
All right, I'm gonna see where
She
Westminster.
already knew a lot of, she knew about the codes that poor Elaine has to deal with.
She was only lacking in a little bit of payroll, human resources, and working with the board, so.
So I just think she will be a great asset to us.
Good. Well, thank you.
And what kind of a benefit package are we offering?
So again,
I'm reading the contract, right?
it just says Westminster on there, it doesn't say anything about Adams, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking that maybe it is just strictly its own school district.
Okay.
'Cause I was looking that up too.
She only does federal grants, and so I'm not sure that Westminster would have enough to employ someone that is just on grants, just on federal grants.
Okay,
'Cause I-
So she gets the salary of $80,000, and then she gets the health insurance, same plan that Elaine had. So I don't know what the total value of the health insurance
Well,
plan that
she
you
said it
have.
was gonna be hers. She's just her, so.
So paid for, just for her, yes, because I guess the kid just
Right.
graduated from college. So just single health insurance benefits for her, dental and
Vision.
vision, yeah.
Dental.
Okay.
Okay. And financial reports.
So I talked to Elaine this afternoon about the financial reports, and looks like we've made a big payment to, is that the BOCES? No,
Woodland Park.
Woodland Park, for the, high needs
Special.
kids, special ed kids. There's 2 payments, right?
Right,
There's how many?
2 payments, there was a 45,000 one that actually made the packet, and on your separate sheet of bills, there is another one that Jackie had missed entering, it's for, I think, 25,000 or 29,000 in addition to that. So that's half a year of sped at Woodland Park.
How many students does that cover? Do we know?
Offhand, I want to say about, 13 kids, but I'd have to get the exact number to you, Bill. So, but roughly what we're shipping the students down there who we don't have the services to meet up here. So, that's autistic students, that's SLIC students, that's students that they need more one-on-one attention that we just don't have the staff to cover. So this was an arrangement made several years ago. I'm trying to think how long ago Les had set this up, probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. So with the BOCES, since as you guys know, the BOCES works with our SPED kids, the Woodland Park kids, and the Manitou kids. So, and Marcy Palmer is our director, and so she tries to move kids from one district to the other where she thinks the best services are going to be at for them, and then figure out the cost and kind of go from there. So this has kind of been the arrangement for these higher needs kids. We did with my first year here. We're still attempting to do it here, but there was there's SPED generalists here versus people that are licensed specifically for this or that, for autism or behavior specialists, those kinds of things. So so that's why I think we switched to it, and then that's just kind of been what they're doing right now. Dennis Peck makes a lot of trips back and forth, at least sometimes 3 times a day, to get the kids, because the kids have different start times too, based off of their medical needs. So some of them can go for one kid I'm thinking in particular can go like at 10:30, and then he has to come home like by 2:30, so he can't go a full day. So then again, the drawback to it is having enough bus drivers to be able to meet that demand, to go back and forth and get them there, pick them, drop them off, pick them back up, and then making sure that happens on Fridays too. So since Woodland Park's a 5-day school week, so. But it's been, I would say it's been useful and successful for those kids because they're getting their needs met there with the staff that they have. It's just the drive time, I'd say, is and the expense is the kicker to it. So, but the idea was the cost for that was cheaper long term. Because if you look at that, the cost of a teacher salary plus benefits, and we. It was like, what was it, 60, 70,000, somewhere around there. If you add that up, that would be like one person for all these kids who have various really high needs. So, that's the logic. So, we'll get I'll get you the exact teaching number or student number that we're transporting. But I want to say it's around 13. So, every day when the kids, if the kids are calling in sick or something like that, yeah. So yeah, pretty big expense, but I think seems to be working out well down there with those guys. So.
Guess I'd be curious to see if we could make it work here and maybe bring some of that money back into our district, and the kids. But
we could definitely check into that, Bill, too.
That's something we could look into. I do have one question. In looking at the check register, I noticed that from last month, everything ended on the 26th, and you gave us an addendum that had everything that was being paid on the 24th. And then our check register started the 25th for this packet. Did we have anything that occurred between the 16th, which was our meeting, and the 24th of December?
Anything that was added is on the additional sheet that is your separate sheet. Those were the only checks that were added. And I don't believe any of, there might have been 2 of those that were, maybe 3 of those were from last time, so
Okay,
AT&T Mobility, TIAA Bank, and Teller County.
okay, cool.
So other than that, the other ones were added, she ran.
Okay,
Okay,
So
so this
then-
was the add-on.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is,
The only
Yeah,
other
that
big
was what I was
bill in
curious
there
about.
is we made our first payment to Scottish Window and Tinting for the security film, and that was for $33,345.
okay,
But that comes from the grant, right?
That comes from the security
Security
grant, and, yeah, and that had been approved when they approved their contract.
any other questions?
and all of our 2019 revenues have come in, correct? That's, we're now looking at when the next revenues come in are all for the 2012. No, everything's a year behind, right? Yeah, so we'll be looking at the 2019 stuff starting to come in March, right? Okay,
Oh, in March.
that's the first one, and then second one is in
There's
June?
2 in March, 1 in April, 2 in May, 1 in June, 1 or 2 in July,
Okay,
so,
Wow.
but they won't start coming in until,
until March, right?
and right now it looks like we're gonna still be okay.
Oh, good.
We aren't gonna have to do the short term. There's a thing we used to have to do called a short-term loan. It was a no-interest loan, just because of the way the funding mechanism hits with the revenues from the county. And it was not a fun thing to have to deal with, but we've been able to alleviate that in the last few years, which has been
Nice.
wonderful.
That is good.
Okay, then can I have a motion then for this consent agenda?
I'll make a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Eric,
Aye.
Ms. Beals,
Aye.
Ms. Dodrell,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Ms. Schwab.
Okay. Next, business manager contract.
Tab 5 for you guys, it's Tammy's contract.
Okay. You pretty much have spelled everything out. Yes.
You bit looked through it, so.
Okay. Do you need a motion?
Yes.
Well, I'll do it.
Can I, does she have to be like fingerprinted or,
She
and,
has been fingerprinted in his past.
and, background checks and all that goes, and that's already been done and we don't have to worry about it coming back bad?
It has come back okay.
Okay,
So I make a motion to approve the business manager contract.
okay, second,
I'll second it.
okay, roll call?
Mr. Eric,
Aye.
Ms. Beals,
Aye.
Ms. Dodrell,
Aye.
Ms. Rice. Aye. Ms. Schwab.
Aye.
Okay. So we welcome you, Patty.
Thank you, appreciate it. Is this where I stand?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Good,
so I wanted to preface this first with a couple remarks.
Sure.
Number one is that you sent an email about getting on the agenda.
Correct.
And I want you to know that you were the impetus of a positive change. When we looked, we had no policy in regards to this.
So I found it on, that's why I looked it up on Casby and found
Oh,
the policy.
is it in this?
Yeah, this is what I handed to you.
And that's
Oh,
what,
okay.
yeah, and that's what I read to know how to submit. And it stated to submit it to the superintendent.
Oh,
So I actually looked it up before I submitted.
well, we appreciate
I
that.
read y'all's policies all the time.
Well, this is good. helps you go to sleep at night, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Yes. And then, again, we appreciate the fact that you're one of our investors. And truly, we know the time, the talent, the treasure that you have brought to our school district. I know personally many children that you have saved and small families. And again, I wanted to acknowledge that.
Well, I thank you very much for doing that.
Yes.
I know that what we've had to do the last 2 years has not always been easy, hasn't been easy on a lot of people, and it's not exactly the way I like to do business, but it was things that needed to happen. So I appreciate those kind words, and I totally love your retreat information. It really does follow so much into what the coalition would like to see as we go forward with our new beginning. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. So,
Now I got
yeah, but I think if we could hold you to 5 minutes, is that doable?
I think so. I'm going to basically just read the presentation that I put in your packet, and then I will entertain any questions. So after that, it would be just basically any conversation that might occur between you and us about the reasonings behind some of our positions.
Okay.
And on your request, first of all, I want to thank the board, you, Mary, and Superintendent Ritchie, for allowing us to be on the agenda. That is a very nice new change, and so we appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and just, Michael Hurlstone is going to read the presentation, but he can't get out of his driveway. So I'm the backup plan on this. So if you want to turn to the presentation in your packet, I'll just read through it, and then we can go from there. Does that sound like a plan? Does that sound okay?
Yes.
All right, so the first question is, what is the Coalition for Better Schools requesting from the current school board? And the Coalition for Better Schools is requesting that the current school board strongly consider charging Tim Braun and Dennis Jones to reimburse the school district for paying legal expenses related to defending the county clerk and recorder and defending appeals against the decision of the protest hearing officer in the amount of $15,333. And then I put those exhibits in there, which were the invoices. Why are we asking for the current school board to support our position and take action? The Coalition for Better School believes that this legal escalation interfered with the cumulative voices of the electors. We believe Tim Braun and Dennis Jones chose of their own individual volition to circumvent the democratic process that empowers the electors of our school district to determine if those elected officials should remain in their positions or be recalled. We believe that their endeavors to pursue legal actions was to prevent, discourage, and disenfranchise the electors in determining who would best represent the interests of the school district, children, and families. We believe that they filed legal actions against the county clerk as a political maneuver to avoid the voice of the electors being heard by solely focusing on their own self-serving agendas. We believe that Superintendent Ritchie had believed that these charges were the responsibilities of the individuals filing the protests and not the responsibility of the school district. On August 15, 2019, Tori Ritchie submitted a letter to Teller County Finance. Superintendent Ritchie stated, Cripple Creek Victor School District is in receipt of the invoice for fees associated with various Board of Education member protests to the recall election. Please be advised that these protests were registered by individual board members and were not actions taken by the board nor authorized by vote of the board. His opinion is harmonious with our opinion that these legal actions were filed by individuals and not in action of the board, and not in performance of their board duties, and not on behalf of the school district. The coalition was surprised when Dr. Ritchie and the administration changed their mind to pay those legal-related expenses, contrary to Dr. Ritchie's original position. Dr. Ritchie and the administration on October 21st, 2019, recommended that the board pay those legal-related expenses. In fact, Tim Braun voted to approve those payments, which in our opinion was not only a conflict of interest, it was also a self-serving action using school district funds. These legal expenses were created by Tim Braun and Dennis Jones to protest the legal authority of the county clerk and recorder, claiming she failed her duties. Tim Braun and Dennis Jones further claimed the clerk and recorder discriminated against them by not giving them legal advice, even though it is illegal for her to provide them legal advice. Subsequently, Tim Braun and Dennis Jones argued that the hearing officer also failed his duties and therefore appealed his legal decision. We also believe that if this were a school district's legal action, the school attorney would have advised these individuals. However, because this was not a school district's legal action to protect the interests of the school district and was in fact only the actions of individuals, the school district attorney did not provide legal advice to these individuals, nor did the school attorney even draft their legal protests, as he was not legally allowed to give them legal advice on their individual protests, which was outside the scope of their official school duties. These protests were filed pro se because Tim Braun and Dennis Jones were acting as individuals. Their protests and appeals were not related to official school district business. We believe that unless this action is corrected by the current school board, the previous board's approval, based on the later recommendation by Dr. Ritchie and the administration, will establish a demand for the school district to pay all future individual-initiated legal actions. Because of this payment for their legal expenses on behalf of individuals, a precedent has been established for legal actions against the school district since a reasonable expectation has been established by the school district. We believe this payment and situation created a conflict of interest where an individual board member benefited financially and personally to the gross detriment of the school district, its children, and families. This situation could continuously create future scenarios where individuals are suing the school district to pay their individual legal expenses by citing these sanctioned payments for costs associated with their individual protests and appeals. Denial or refusal to pay for future individual-related legal expenses could open further claims against the school district for favoritism, prejudice, discrimination. The coalition was informed by the county clerk that a special election would cost between $6,000 to $8,000. Since the recall election was part of the general election, the actual cost for the recall question was, and this is just the question, was approximately $4,000. However, since the school district has paid approximately $15,333 to cover the protests and appeals filed on behalf of individuals, Tim Braun and Dennis Jones, the recall question is costing the school district approximately $19,333. We believe that Tim Braun and Dennis Jones have argued their actions justify their means to save the district money from a special election. In reality, by their protests and appeals against the county clerk and recorder and the hearing officer, they cost the taxpayers at least 3 times the amount that would have been spent if the recall question were allowed to follow the natural course to a special election. The money, $15,333, paid on behalf of Tim Braun and Dennis Jones to Teller County could have been better used in supporting children in their educational program. By their actions, the children in our school district have lost the potential for 6,814 student lunches to be funded, 150 new textbooks if they cost $100 each, 6,133 gallons of gas at $2.50 per gallon, could be purchased for field trips and educational excursions. 1,022 hours for paraeducators at $15 an hour to support children who are failing expectations. $511 worth of educational supplies and materials for each teacher based on 30 classrooms. We believe that our fellow taxpayers and school district families would prefer that public funds be solely used to support our children rather than supporting individual interests and actions. So who should address this concern? The Coalition for Better Schools is requesting the current school board to openly discuss and take great weight from public opinion in taking actions to protect our district children, families, and taxpayers by requesting and demanding that Tim Braun and Dennis Jones accept responsibility for their personal actions. We are further asking that the current board protect future financial liabilities against our school district that may be established by this presidents in perpetuity. That was Michael's big word. I don't usually use big words. This will ensure that funding and future funds are reserved solely to support our school district children, their lunches, textbooks, paraeducator support, to close the achievement gap that occurs when children are left behind, and other school district expenses that further support our children in helping them achieve personification of their unique individual potential. So in closing, representatives of the Coalition for Better School are prepared, not as many because of the snow, to answer any questions that may arise during open discussion by the school board. And again, I want to thank the school board for allowing us to at least present our information, and we hope that the board will consider our request and move forward at least discussing and coming up with a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
That it? Okay.
So I questions.
Well, I was going to ask if there was a response from the county to Tori, and Tori provided us with that information. And in reading what it says here about the statute, I'm not necessarily in agreement with what the county has offered as a reasoning for the school district paying this, since the two individuals in question should have actually been billed themselves for it, because they are the ones that brought forth the appeals, and that's actually not really performing duties related to the recall of the incumbent. The appeal process is something that they have to go through on their own. So I'm questioning whether or not the county really had justified it accurately enough. The other thing that bothers me is that a vote was taken to pay this by the person in question, and an approval vote by that person. And I'm not sure how we would be able to rectify that.
May I address with some thoughts about the email that you received from Teller County government?
Okay?
And so while we believe that it is reasonable and required that the school district pay for the costs of the elections, we have to consider the fact that we believe that the designated election officials' duties actually stopped on the verification or the sufficiency of the recall petitions 15 days after she verified them. And the reason we believe that is no valid protest was filed within that deadline period. To be a valid protest, under state statute, that protest has to be submitted under oath. And Mr. Jones and Mr. Braun both failed to submit their protests under oath. Therefore, there should never even been a hearing, because right then, that part of the sufficiency of the recall petitions was over. 15 days, that's all they had. And they knew about this because Mr. Jones actually put the statute in his protest that he had to file the protest under oath. So if you think of it in that sense, no hearing. If there was really no hearing, no appeals. So what happened is that's why the judge threw out the recall committee's responsibility as respondents, because there was nothing for us to respond to. There was no protest filed at the right time. It should have gone on to election at that time. These appeals were all because Tim Braun and Dennis Jones felt that the county clerk did not give them legal advice and tell them that she needed to submit, or they needed to submit it under oath.
Any other questions for Patty?
And Patty, you saw that, I just gave you the copy, so you probably haven't had a chance to look at it a bit. The letter that came back on August 20th from Teller County, which I know you just kind of referenced that basically.
I have,
That's, just to tell you, that was why
we changed.
I changed my recommendations based on, I felt like, well, I asked them for the statute and they provided it, and I thought, well, okay, I guess we have to, so.
Well, and I understand that, I really do, but just because someone sent you a bill and the statute doesn't mean you're responsible to pay it.
Okay.
I mean, if you're paying their cost of their recall election, the recall committee has some bills that we would like to submit to them. Because if you don't if you do things special because they're a school board member, or because there's some other reason why you feel like you can't go after a school board member, then you must also do it for everybody else on the God's planet. And remember, any elector could have filed a protest, anybody. So if Joe Jones filed a protest, and they didn't do it under oath, would you pay for all of his as well? That's our question.
So is this the right time for me to respond or no? Like, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, because I remember this meeting, and I went into this meeting thinking, I do not think it's the school's responsibility to pay for it, because it wasn't it was their decision. But we did talk with our legal counsel, and they advised us to pay the bill, that it's really not worth not paying the bill. We need him and Dennis to testify in a lawsuit with Mr. Lindauer, and we need that testimony. So in order to go after them for this, do you really think they're gonna wanna, which is much more cost that we're looking at? So, I mean, do we really wanna cut off our, what's the word?
Nose
Cut
to
off our
spite
nose
your
to spite your
face.
face.
Yeah, that's the
I'll help you with
saying.
that. You know, Tana, I hear you that, and that makes me very concerned about something else. And that is witness tampering. In a way, you are telling, I'm just throwing this out, okay? That you are saying, if I heard you correctly, the attorney advised you there would be better interest for the school district not to go after the 15,000 because you need their testimony. That could be.
That's kind of how I felt it was.
Well, I guess I didn't go to law school, so I don't know about that, but,
Well, we never
we can only go by what we're advised to do, and we pay that attorney a lot of money as well to get advice from, so.
Well, I'm just saying is, I'm not an attorney either, but I do believe that when you say, or when they tell you, or you're told, and that you just shared with the public, is that that the board chose not to go after them to pay, which I totally support.
The other thing though too is that we've already been through a lot, so we've got to cut it off at some time. Like, we've got to stop at some point and let us move forward.
But how can you move forward based upon these kind of arrangements or negotiations or untruths or non-transparency? You can't move forward until you heal or fix some of the problems of the past. By brushing them under the carpet and saying, that's history, that's done. That's not moving forward. That's hiding past mistakes. and not correcting them. And now that this board knows that the reason given to you, which you just told us, is because you need Dennis Jones and Tim Bond to testify favorably for the school district in an upcoming trial, that's witness tampering
Actually, that feels like blackmail.
or extortion or
Well-
something.
I think the other thing though, our lawyers said, there is no precedence on this, there's never been, because it was a school board. They were being recalled from the school board. It was the school board, it was, they weren't being like taken from humanity or recalled from humanity, they were being recalled from the school board. And so and he said that there was no policy on this. He never had heard of any
School
thing
district in the state of Colorado that had a policy on this?
yeah.
Well, it's not policy, it wouldn't be a policy, it's the fact that these are, at the time that they're recalled, they are not school board members, they are politicians. They are elected officials. They are not performing their duties as school board members, so of course there wouldn't be anything in school board policy. At that moment in time, they are an elected public official that the electors and enough signed petitions wanted to at least take it to a recall election. They are operating on their own at that time. It could even be construed, and I'm just talking off the top of my head on this with you guys, I'm trying to be honest, is that you guys made a campaign contribution of $15,333. Because it was their campaigning, their political strategy to stall the election to the general election, because they felt like they would have a better chance, or at least Tim did, in a general election as opposed to a special election. So in that sense, you are actually contributing to their political maneuvers. And you can't do that as a public entity.
I'm done.
So, Patty, if we invoice the two of them, and it's going to be a bit confusing because of,
It's going to be tough. It's not an
Tanya
easy
Martin
solution.
was involved in this, et cetera. Do you really believe that they would write us a check?
No, I do not. I do not believe they will write you a check. This is my personal opinion. My personal opinion is that the county also knew that they wouldn't write them a check, and they're trying to recoup their costs as well. But they're not going to write you a check, so you take them to claims. You put a lien on their house. You garnish their wages. You have to do something to show that the public, that in good faith, you are not allowing school district money to be used for private politicians' political maneuvers, and you're not tampering witnesses. Because I'll be telling you, Tana, what you just told me is,
Well, good, now you have another reason to go after us and twist the words and do that.
well, now that's not fair.
Exactly.
I'm not twisting the words. I'm saying
You're using
exactly
whatever
what you
I'm
just
saying to
stated.
come back and have another reason. Sorry, I'm done.
Well, I'll be honest, if I were on the board, I would be very uncomfortable right now if I had the idea that I'm supporting, not going after them to pay, because I want them to testify favorably in an upcoming litigation. Oh my gosh, just imagine what the opposition's gonna do with that when they find out. Or if they don't tell them, but this is all public. They're gonna have them excused as dismissed because of bias. How would they know now that they're testifying honestly, or they're testifying because they didn't have to go after the 15,000? That is very disturbing, in my opinion.
I wonder how much it would cost us to do that though. And keep going and keep going and keep going. I think it's gonna be well over the 15,000. And then that would be on us for sure.
Well, you keep adding it to their bill, and you put a lien on their house, you garnish their wages. There's many ways to make collections. My thing is, I just feel, and the coalition believes, that this board must take some kind of action just to show the public that you are trying to right a wrong. And it is not moving forward if you can't right the wrongs.
I personally feel like, giving more of the information. I would like to see what it would be to go ahead and take the Peace Builders Pledge and right a wrong. I don't want us to set a precedent. I don't want to keep doing this, but it might cost us 15,000, but if it's going to set a precedent, it might cost us a lot more later. And it could be viewed as witness tampering if we're going to say no. I think they need to be held accountable for what's right is right, so. They owe the school, in my mind, they owe the school, and I guess, I know it's gonna be, that's just me, that's me speaking. I don't wanna do it, but I feel it's sometimes I feels like it's probably the right thing to do, although it's gonna be a lot of work, but that's another reason why I'm on this board.
That's a couple of reasons why we ran.
That's why I said, that's why I'm on the board. I don't like it, but I don't always have to like everything that we do, and that came in the training.
Yeah, there are going to be times
There's
that,
gonna be some stuff I
as
don't
board members, you're
particularly
gonna have-
feel like it's the right thing to do, I just don't want to brush it on the rug and saying that's there. I mean, if it's 15,000, and I don't want others to take it, and I do want to build a trust. I want to build
Yeah.
trust. So
Trust.
I want people to trust that, I don't know, that's my opinion.
One of the things Kelly had said was that since there wasn't any policy for it previously, that their being Tim and Dennis's defense would be that they didn't know that they were incurring those costs, that they were feeling that they were part of their natural appeal process, that they were allowed to do that. So and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Kelly had also said that piece of it. So that since there isn't, I think what Tana was saying earlier was since there hasn't been a precedent statewide for it, this will be interesting ground to tread on because their argument would somewhere around the angle be, hey, we didn't know that we were going to incur this cost by appealing it. So that's kind of what Kelly said, just to remind you guys when you're making your decisions.
but if you're,
It was pretty obvious throughout all the hearing process that they were going through that they were not getting any legal advice at all. So ignorance is not an acceptable excuse.
it's not.
Okay, just
So
throwing it out.
And
I'm of the opinion that we need to go after this. This is money that belongs to our district.
But then,
And I realize that, yes, they want a favorable outcome in the Lindauer case, but they're also part of the reason that we had problems with the Lindauer case in the first place. So I'm weighing out what's going to be the best interest of the school district, and we were asking them to be held accountable, and I still think we need to maintain that.
so number one, I think you have a conflict of interest here, Bill. You're still a member of this coalition. And so voting on this, I don't think that you can do that. I would like to make sure that I'm correct on that with Kelly Dude. I think there's some other things that have been revealed here that that Kelly, when we spoke with them, we did not have a package of stuff. And now this is pretty much a complete file, other than, you have some things that you've spoken about tonight, then I would probably have you write down.
Okay, I don't, some of the stuff I won't remember, but you have the tape,
Yeah,
and so you.
That's gonna be on the webpage. So
and we're,
we're gonna post that on the webpage. It's
That's
Facebook.
perfect,
Then
and
you
then
can-
we can take
Yeah.
it,
and
because, yeah.
we're in possession of 3 other letters that are what you put here. And so obviously this is pretty convoluted. I think when you spoke again, there is an assumption of governmental immunity. And it is so much different with school boards that, again, it's like Kelly said, that there hasn't been anything that's come down like this, not in his history of being in school. So I would see that. I say also, I'm conflicted because I do know that, yes, we're all accountable. And I also know that we have got to take and get out of the battle zone. And, I think all of us are like, we could see that we can cross the river, but we can't quite get there because we have all of this stuff. And as you know, you speak public opinion, and there is public opinion here, and there's public opinion on the other side too. So, my thought would be to get this file all together, because there's also some complexities in terms of how this would be disaggregated. There's also some type of culpability in regards to the county. And I don't think we understand that at all either, is to put the file together and then have Kelly take a look at it.
What if a task force, somebody, because this isn't something that has to be remedied tonight. This is something that can take time, and I totally hear what you guys are saying. But when you're being recalled, you're not performing your duties. And the indemnification is for when you are performing your duties as a school board member. But an election, and a recall election, is not part of your duties as a school board member. That is just being a politician. So I do hear what you're saying, but I think it's very complex. So perhaps a task force, a group of people who would look at all this stuff and then look at it from that point of view. I think that to protect you, the board, right now, I think that some kind of action, at least show that you're making some kind of action.
Or, and I think too, there's another process, and it's called restorative justice. And it brings people together to, again, like you said, right the wrongs. And is that something that we might avail ourselves? The task force, I think, is, again, what's people's expertise and, their background. There's confirmation bias that's always problematic. I think, obviously we need to reflect on this. I think that again, we have an attorney, and we also have some people that I know that are connected to this restorative justice process or mediation, and it maybe can be resolved in that kind of venue. But obviously, like I said, we have got to move forward. And again, being embroiled in a battle all the time is, again, it consumes your energy and your efforts. It consumes your focus. And can't be there. We have got to take and get through this and move it off.
I totally get that, but you've got to be mindful that you're not setting precedents later.
And
That all campaign, all political campaigns, all candidates can start sending the school board bills.
And
then
I have to say, when we talked about that again with Kelly Dude, he said, we asked about a policy. And he said, I don't have anything on the books. I don't have anything that
Yeah.
touches
Even look at
this.
it.
Yeah, because this is so unique in the history of his law career.
Kind of
So,
control
yeah,
numbers.
and again, I think if he was presented the materials, then he has other colleagues
Yeah.
who could take a look at this. You know, it might,
Good idea.
you know, it might be somebody in Idaho that's had these problems.
Well,
You
there
know?
are successful recalls throughout the nation. I mean, not many, only 16%. But there are situations. So I think that somewhere there's
There have been
something.
some other successful recalls in the state. Colorado Springs had one, Jeffco had one.
Jeffco, they had a big one.
Yeah.
And I think I think maybe what we're trying to figure out is,
Time.
yeah, I know you guys need to move on,
Okay,
but I
but-
appreciate
But
it.
again, I have to tell you, when we went to this retreat, that Randy made it very clear to us that it is a whole lot simpler to take and have conversations
Yes.
right on the lowest planes, because otherwise they burgeon out to, you know, these huge, divisions that, and again, I have to say that we're trying to right that wrong.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And
You're
you
on the agenda. We're having this
You have.
conversation.
You were having
And-
a conversation.
Yes,
which is
and we're trying to
wonderful.
take it and be there. You know, again,
That's
you're,
awesome.
we're accountable. You know, you're one of, like I said, one of our investors. So I believe what we'll do is go forward and submit this to Kelly to start out with, and I will look at the restorative justice piece.
The more
Okay.
information that he has now.
Okay,
Thank you, guys, again. Thank you so much.
well, drive safe.
Appreciate it. I
Yeah,
will
you're
say-
welcome. We're glad. Okay. Thank you guys for coming. Did you leave us your values? Oh, you're gonna work on them. Okay. Huh?
Did you leave your crayons?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Okay, so back to the agenda. I'm glad you guys keep me on task. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, we just went 30 minutes overdue.
Yeah, I know. But again,
It
well
was,
spent.
yeah, it was well spent.
Conversation.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so, moving right on down the road, the calendar. Do we,
Yeah, so the DAC committee approved a one-year calendar for next year,
okay,
and it's on tab 7.
Right?
Okay.
Got it.
so what's the timeline for getting that approved? I tell you the truth, I really have not taken a real good look at
I
it.
mean, it's on there if you guys want to approve it tonight, or if you, I mean, we can, as far as your piece, planning it out and getting it going.
I need it for the 4-day calendar submittal.
Oh,
Just
for
the-
the state, yeah. Yeah, every year for the state, you have to approve to be a four-day school
Okay,
year.
Oh.
So when was that deadline for?
It's just opening up, so, I mean, next month would be the latest, because we've got to submit it.
Okay.
So you're going back to 5 days of in-service?
That was my question too. Is it necessary to have all 5 of those at the beginning of the year?
The beginning of the year, yeah, we were, people asked, if we could throw, we do a staff retreat to Camp Elam, is where we've been going, we went last year and we're gonna go again, so they asked if we could, crank out that Friday on the 14th to do that, so we added, that there, and I'm trying to think who else was on the calendar committee with, I think two of the calendar committee just left, but, and you were in the DAC, so, what was your conversation? I'd be curious to see what your conversations were about that, Sheldon, when you
We
guys.
sent it back to the calendar committee because what they were wanting to do was to start dividing both sides of the street again like they did this year.
Had that early start, but that got voted down.
And the kicker of that is that I don't know how many, well, I think Gary Lou was on the board then. I don't know, were you on the board this year, Tana? You were at the beginning of the school year, right? Yeah. I don't know if you guys had anybody contact you about how messed up that made their families.
The week staggered start. is what
That
we're talking
staggered
Oh,
start.
yes.
Because all of a sudden it was putting more of a burden on the parents because the older kids are in school.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where
Yeah.
we, we started our discussion. We sent it back to the calendar committee. That was December. And they brought it back, this calendar now, back to us this month, saying that if we run it this way, we're not burdening anybody. And upon with what they told you was that everything that is needed for all the professional development days with the teachers and all are built into this calendar and they're able to work around it.
Yeah, as for the ELG grant, board members, was the driving force this year, is why they had to have the staggered start time, because there was a crazy amount of professional development days that they built in. It was like around 14, and it had to be built in like right at the beginning to crank out this new curriculum they were working on and do some letters training. And so that was this current year that we're in. Next year, and Sheldon had raised it like, hey, I don't know that the parents would be down with us doing another staggered start. It prompted a conversation with me and Elaine with a lady named Alex Frazier, who's at the ELG grant at CDE. And I said, hey, it might be to the point where my community, my district can't handle this capacity if we're gonna have to do this again. So I said, we have a total of 6 days throughout the year that you can play with as far as putting in your ELGPD. Okay, so we were complaining about, so early literacy grant, professional development days. And so I said, if you could do it within the confines of not starting us early and then just working through it, then we could play ball with that. But so, as far as Bill, your original, which was 5 days at the beginning, the calendar committee had input, I believe, from the staff, because we'd emailed and said, if you guys want, talk to your calendar committee members, and if this is okay with you guys, let us know. And so they got input on both sides of the house, and then met. This is kind of what the compromise was for those days. They wanted, again, like that, they wanted to crank one out on the Friday because it's right at the beginning of the year, so that Friday wouldn't feel as painful to them, I guess, since it was right there at the start. And the Camp Elam thing's been a good thing that we've done. We were doing it at Blue Mountain Ranch before, where the staff it's basically bonding, getting you fired up. We go over, talk about goals and stuff for the year while you're doing outside training day. So so we threw.
So what days are you doing that? Or have you planned that yet?
That 14th is the Camp Elam day.
Okay, because I guess what I'm looking at is we're on a 4-day school week.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, we start Wednesday, Thursday, and then they're back out again. My thought is we should be putting them a full week in.
Yeah, and then there was two conversations on that. So your conversation that we should just do the full week. The other one is, hey, the kids are coming off of a full summer, and that the staff has noticed that by Thursday of that first week, and some teachers too, that they're like kind of hitting that wall. So right or wrong, a lot of districts do this like 1 to 2 days at the beginning of the week. Doesn't mean it's right. Just that was the logic, just to ease them into their school lives.
For lack of a better term, it's easier to get everybody back into the swing of things.
If you have fewer days to do
If you have the 2 days doing it that way, because that was the other thing I brought up, why are we doing this? And the teachers and everybody did come out and say, if we do it this way, they have a little more time for themselves to be prepared 2 days before the students come in, and then they're already mentally prepared for when the students are here, and then the students aren't being more or less lambasted with a full week of school. They have 2 days to get accustomed to school. They get that nice little 3-day break, and then they're back on and able to run.
Yeah, I think too, on the secondary side, I always favored that because you have 6 classes and you look and one class is like, whoa, you got 30 some in it. And then another class, you maybe only have 10. And then it's what's the profile of the class. I mean, one time I had all these boys and maybe 2 girls. You know, so it gave you a chance to really have just a feel that, oh, I gotta plan this different. And so you're not thrown into the fire so quickly.
Yeah, so right around, Bill, that was the logic.
Well,
So,
Makes sense.
okay, I'm gonna come at this from a point of view that none of you are going to like, okay?
Gotcha.
I was raised in Iowa. We started 2 weeks before Labor Day. No matter what, we started 2 weeks before Labor Day,
Okay.
plain and simple, okay? Iowa ranks up there really well in educational programs and how the kids' output is, and it is a common knowledge thing that we're one of the top 5 every year. I have never understood why Colorado feels that they need to reinvent the wheel when there's programs or there's plans or there's systems in place that have been beneficial, that have been productive, that have proven time and time again that they do the right things. They're up there. In fact, a lot of those upper Midwestern states are right up there in the top 10 year after year after year. That's because we got the kids in school. So I'm looking at this calendar and I'm going, we're starting in the middle of the week. I'm also looking at, when I was in school, we didn't have a whole week off for Thanksgiving. And I know this is going to shock a lot of you, but in the Midwest, we didn't have spring break at all. We never get it. We never got anything like that. We were lucky if we got the Monday after Easter off because we didn't use all of our snow days up. And I'm going to tell you right now, they have used 7 snow days in the Midwest, just where I used to live. They're going to have to go to school 3 extra days already. That they've got, because they've got to get the hours in, they've got to get that time in. One of the things that we've always talked about, and when I was on the board before, was the contact time with the kids, getting them involved, getting them engaged, being a part of it. We know that they have to have in-service days. We know that everybody's got to get the work in. We understood that. That was what we were understanding is what our job was as teachers. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, I don't really see a benefit starting in the middle of the week. That's a personal opinion. If everybody else wants to do that, okay, I'm fine with that. But I'm also looking at methods that I've seen that have been tried and true, and they're still continuing to use them today in other parts of the country. And where do we rank as a state? And I know we're in the bottom 10. So maybe it's time that we made some changes and we started looking at what some other states are doing and saying, maybe that's not a bad idea for us. I don't want to take away people's spring break. I understand that everybody looks forward to it. But I'll be honest with you, we never got it.
And Bill, that's part of the reason why we only went with 1 year. They were wanting 3.
Nah, you can't do that.
They were wanting us to send out 3. It's like, and part of, one of the things that the DAC committee does need is we would greatly appreciate if we could have a school board member there too. Because that way, it's not just me being the liaison, it's not just Tori, but we're able to get that input. Granted, the school board member is not able to vote on anything in there, but at least we have that input from, basically our director committee, for lack of a better term. So, that's one thing that would be nice for us to have, because that way, somebody else, because I'm going off of what the teachers are telling us, I'm going off of this year of phone calls I got personally, and it's great fun to be in the middle of waiting for an inspector to show up, and your phone's going off the hook by 3 different people, And the inspector's looking at you like, why aren't you answering it? You know, I don't get paid. And I told the inspector, well, it's this parent, this parent, this parent. The inspector said, take the call. But if you're dealing with the school, that's more important than the hourly. So this is one of those things of, we were going back and forth. And the biggest thing is the staggered start, you know, secondary not, or having more days than the primary. I understand where you're coming from, and that's some direction that we need for the next calendar.
So,
Okay.
right now, in the interest of expediency, you're saying you need this for no later than a decision on this by next month. And at this point, I don't know that we're gonna make any kind of inroads on this, that perhaps we should put forward a motion and get this approved for next year. And then my recommendation, when we looked at the stuff from Randy Black, is that there was that calendar that we fill in when all things, this is something that we're gonna know that we've gotta do this month, this is something we're gonna do this month. So if we could get that kind of filled out, and Elaine, I can show that to you. I mean, you'd be the perfect person to help get us on track in regards to that. But for now, do I have a motion?
Not yet. And what day would be graduation for the seniors?
Oh,
Oh, let's see here, I think it
Would it be
is,
before Memorial Day?
it would be before Memorial Day.
Okay.
What is it, what do we put on here?
It would be?
The 27th then?
It's usually before Memorial Day, isn't it?
oh, so that's not even, that's not even on there.
Then too. Right now, the last day of school is
Yeah,
the day of
because
graduation
seniors don't, I mean,
this year.
seniors can can graduate earlier because they don't need the full amount of hours, so. Where is it listed on here?
It's
It
not.
isn't. That's my wonder.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Good catch.
Yeah, it should be.
I was just curious if they had picked a date. That's what I wondered.
Yeah, they have, but I'll have to ask Michelle, because I thought we put that.
Okay.
And there's only, starting in January and April, those are the only two professional development days then?
I'm sorry, I'm still writing this down.
I saw one more. I'm sorry.
Can you repeat that, Gary?
Can I see the calendar real quick?
Yeah,
There's January 4th and 5th are professional development days.
January
as
and
is
April are the only
9th
two professional development days.
and I thought there was another one.
January and
I
April?
think, well, because we slid that day forward to August, right? I believe is what it was.
Turn around so you can see.
Because they needed them up front, the Crescent needed them up front for the ELG grant professional development days, because there's all this
Those
like.
first 2 days
Those
in January, right?
front-loaded
Yeah.
PD days, so they shifted it, so then that's why there's only two in the second semester.
Did you get the wrong calendar in here?
I don't know.
We had two different calendars going at once.
Oh, crap. Okay.
Well, maybe it's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Michelle Eastman's the one who caught that.
Then we
Okay.
should probably table this until
Okay,
the next meeting.
Yeah,
that's good.
Okay.
I just thought of that because we had one that we were working off of, and then Michelle was working off one on her computer, and all of a sudden we have two different calendars going.
So I'll touch base with Michelle.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Connie had something else.
Well, well, yeah, so do you guys, I mean, I don't know even what the calendar, but just at the thought, if we were to start a day earlier and take 2 days off and Thanksgiving, then we would actually be able to probably end school May and not go into June. So it's 3 days change, so I don't know what all that is and how that all talks. Well, then
No, I'm just saying, oh boy, because that was one thing that we brought up. I brought up too, is why can't we move this around, change this here?
And it's a whole.
And you start having to move around because of the ELG grant and other
Yeah.
in-service days that the teachers need.
Take that back.
So, and then I'm thinking we have these two new principals coming aboard in professional development.
Mhm. As far as leading it, you mean, or what do you?
No, in terms of what will be their needs. I mean,
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out too.
yeah.
let's table this until next month.
Okay, sorry. Okay, else are we rolling
Really
on?
good discussion.
Do we have to do a motion to table it, or?
Yeah, we probably should.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Okay,
I move that we table the calendar approval until the next month with hopefully some updates.
I'll second that.
okay, roll call.
Mr. Eric,
Aye.
Ms. Beals,
Aye.
Ms. Dodrell,
Aye.
Ms. Rice,
Aye.
Ms. Schwab.
Okay. So, what's the time?
We're almost, we're at 7:40.
Late.
Yeah, informational.
The rest of this is informational stuff, right?
Yes,
So these are not things that we really need to have a vote on, but are these things that do need to be approved at some point?
These are just the teacher rubric that the state and everybody, every district in the state uses, same with the principal rubrics. You can either have the Randa version or a version that is run by your local agency. So the BOCES, UPass BOCES has developed theirs based off of the Randa system, which is that one I have to go look what the abbreviation is for that. But the Randa system is basically the evaluation system that the state says every district has to use. There's certain elements, and it's, I believe, around 178 different areas that they want you to evaluate a teacher off of. And then the principal rubric has something similar. And then, this is the teacher one's posted on our website, and I'm having Meryl put the principal one up there as well. But you can look through there, and so this is, breaks it down, different levels of what you're seeing as an evaluator. They also do a self-evaluation version of this at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year, seeing where they think they're at. So, and then you have conversations throughout the year saying, so I'm only seeing you at a level 2, can you invite me into your class sometime to show me some of this other stuff you think you're doing? So that's part of how the conversations are supposed to go. So it's an interactive evaluation, not just a boomstick, I come in and see you doing this thing, Mary, so this is where I'm at with it.
Okay.
It's supposed to be an interaction conversation, and that's usually how that works. Principal rubric is the same idea. Les used to do work with me and do that, and then this year I'm doing it with the 2 APs, kind of saying, same idea, this is where I see you at, this would, can you show me that where you're doing this, that kind of thing, so.
so are they in the process of doing this right now?
So this is an all-year process.
Okay,
this
so
starts
it's
from the second
ongoing.
they show up to the second they leave. It's ongoing, and you have meetings along the way, and just say where you're at with it. Back to the teacher or the principal, but the teachers, you have your formals and your informals and your goal-setting sessions, and then your follow-ups, and then you do like the 3 to 5 minute walkthroughs when you're walking through the classroom, which gives you snapshots where they're at. And then they have, Crystal and Matt have set up I want to say it's a Google Doc where they put in what they've seen in the classrooms, and then the teachers can kind of comment back saying, oh, you missed this, or yeah, thanks for noticing that. And so it's kind of an interactive thing, like all year long.
Okay,
We actually did something similar to this in a couple schools I taught at in Nebraska.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yes.
So, yep, very, very forward thinking. This is good stuff as far as helping us as administrators and the teachers too. It's like, what's the game plan? Show me the game plan. Here it is, right here. So you know ahead of time what they're looking for.
Has this changed in the last couple of years?
Yeah, it was like they pared it down to 178. It was like 320 or something crazy number.
I was gonna say, I just seemed like I did a lot
It
more
was
than
pretty
that.
huge. It was really a beast to get through in a whole year. Even this is a beast to get through in a whole year, but the other one was very hard to do. So
Yeah, it
And
was.
that all stemmed from that last act that was passed on the teacher evaluation. What year was that, 2015?
It was a while back, yeah.
2014, something like that?
Yeah, so, yep, so anyways, it's good for you guys to know, how they're getting evaluated, and both principals and teachers, and see how that works.
Tori, is this included in when they're getting hired and they get a copy of their
There's
They're
been
gonna
some
be
debate
rated
about that at the state level, whether or not it should follow them. There's a push to have it follow from one district to another if they're in Colorado. That hasn't officially gone through yet. There's some discussions about whether or not, if that's a violation of any of their personnel rights. So about whether it could follow them or not. So it's in debate right now at the state level about whether you like. Are you saying like if you work at Cripple Creek and you go to Manitou?
Oh, no,
would it follow
no,
you?
I'm saying,
Oh,
say you're hiring this new first grade teacher.
okay.
They actually get what they're going to be
Oh,
rated on.
yeah. You talk to them. You show them ahead of time. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
You
so
talk,
during their orientation, and they get their orientation.
yeah. This
packet,
is all
you
part of
kind
it.
go,
And, yeah. Michelle Eastman is. In the principals sit down with them and say, this is where it's at, this is how you log on, this is what it looks like. And just kind of walk them through
Okay.
it. At first, it's very overwhelming for a new teacher
Oh, yeah,
to see that and go, whoa. But then you just kind of work them through it and talk it through.
okay.
So make them know it'll be okay.
And when you're meeting with them, is it documented that you're telling them, or is it just?
Yeah, you have, yep.
Yeah, you have
your-
to file all of it.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that's part of
I
the
was just
whole
thinking, I
session.
don't know. but
Yeah, no,
I
now
would
you're
think so.
learning, you're asking, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that was part of the law, was that they made sure that all this stuff was documented
Okay, good,
as well.
because I was gonna
Yeah.
just say it's not a good deal. Well,
Okay.
No.
But
So Head Start, did we want to cover any of that or move on?
Well, let me see, and I think we could probably move on. I mean,
Okay.
you guys are,
I
Okay.
mean, that was information we've already gone through.
So then, board thoughts.
Well, and these, what, yeah, you handed to us?
Yeah.
I was just asking Elaine before the meeting, we don't have an actual tool that we evaluate you with anymore? Because we did when I was on the board before,
So I've never been, yeah, there's never been a tool that was used for me. I'm not sure what was used for Les. But,
Well, there
so,
was one in place before Les came in, and I wonder what happened to it.
so I am not sure, but, we
Because
can,
we worked damn hard.
did you guys put it in the board policies or just a tool somewhere?
It was,
we could,
it was supposed to be part of the policy, because
Okay.
we actually attached it to the policy as the rubric that we used to evaluate Sue.
okay,
And
Well,
it was in place when
you
I
know, we could
left.
probably look in, Sue's file to see, what the document looks like. From there.
All right, and then according to your contract, when do we have to have that process completed by?
So my contract, as you guys know, is good, June 2021.
Well, it has to be renewed every year, though.
In February, you guys basically need to start that process of looking at, at renewing. And then you go from there.
February?
Hmm?
February renew?
February.
February, yeah.
But we have to have the process completed by when?
Well, I mean, you basically have to
January.
decide in February if you're good, yeah, what,
She said January 2nd.
yeah.
So we're late.
Yeah, too bad, right?
No.
No, you basically, so for my contract, you have to, well, first, since I haven't, been on the plan that you guys had, so that's why I think Mary was asking me, hey, get some plans out there that you've seen, so that's why I asked some of my superintendent friends, and hey, what are you guys using? So that's why they gave me the Woodland Park one, and then the Ellicott Palmer. So that was my intention of saying, here's some things and ways you can evaluate me. So I think we just got to figure it out and then figure out what's going to work for you guys because.
So have you had a chance to look
I haven't had
at the three tools
chance
that he gave us?
I glanced at them, I didn't really look
Okay.
back
Go
at.
for it, yeah.
Um,
There's some of those ones, if you notice, and then maybe yours has this too. There was like timelines of, hey, you meet with a soup at this time. You set your evaluation. You set your goals for him at this time or her at this time.
Yes.
This is the follow up. This is the person that goes over it.
So
The evaluation. So I don't know that we're
kind of how we do it
how we're gonna do
is,
that timeline.
obviously, we probably won't have goals that you had in place for the last year.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so we won't have that, but what we've done is that we have a tool, and then, we have, like you fill out your evaluation, and then we, yeah, self-eval, and then each one of us, does the evaluation on you, and then have a, session where we look at yours and compare it with what we've done, and then put forward, I think the hardest part is to write the narrative pieces, and then to put forward what the goals will be for the following year. Because obviously that all connects to a strategic plan. But I think at this point, we could still bring something together, but it needs to take and be done. So, and I'm thinking if we schedule this thing in February with early head start, then, that's not a possibility of a work session.
Well, you have to do an additional board meeting then to, yeah, but let me get I'll have to look at my contract.
Or we can't do it through like a work session or something?
Well, let me get my contract and then we can look at it and
Yeah.
figure out exactly our timeline. If we need to have a special meeting, then we have a special meeting at that point, or if we can do it in a work session.
So-
we can do it then, but, let me look into it.
Then, I'm just trying to think. Okay, so will this come up as an agenda item for the February board meeting? Is that time enough?
Well, let me look at it and then I can officially tell you that, so I don't wanna say
Okay.
something and then have to change it, so.
Because of the contract.
Probably, but,
Sorry.
but let me look,
Okay, and then you'll just communicate with us,
I will, yeah.
and then we'll figure it out. Is everybody acceptable with that?
I accept.
We want you to get paid.
There you go.
He's willing to work for free.
That would be nice.
We just gotta throw him a sugar donut every now and then.
Yeah,
I like that.
He's gotta have his power ring to make it through the day.
I do like that, yeah.
okay. Anybody else have, any concerns? Board member concerns?
Just quickly, I know that you guys had tasked me with the redistricting thing, and yes, we are in violation of the law. However, since it was voted on by the people, it falls to us to decide what we're going to do with that. The way that it was worded on the ballot leaves it a little bit open to interpretation, but because of the actions of the previous board by designating specifically how they were going to create the director districts, that's where the law was broken. Therefore, it falls to us to decide what we're going to do, but it would need to be something that is corrected by the 2021 election, especially if those two districts are impacted in that election. So we do need to conform to what the law states, which is that they do have to be as equal in size as possible, and we need to determine how we want to do that. We've got time that we can work on that.
So is this a board meeting agenda?
It would be
Item
eventually-
for February, or is it,
It could
rolled
be at
out?
some point.
do you want us to roll it out for like, say, May?
It's up to you guys.
I say we put it off a little bit because sounds like we got a lot in February.
Yeah, I think, I do too, I think
But we
we're
just,
max.
we just need to be aware that we do have to fix it before our next election comes up.
Okay,
You got
But it does fall to us to do it. If we don't do it and somebody files a lawsuit, then we're forced to do it, so.
okay. Any other board concerns? Okay, then we have a motion then for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Eric,
Aye, sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay.
Aye.
Ms. Dodger,
Aye.
Ms. Rice.
Aye.
Ms. Schwab.
Aye.
Thank you, audience, and participation.